Welcome back. Tisa here with another story while I do my makeup. Today's story is about the buck. Have you ever heard of the buck? Well, I'm going to tell you what my research came across, and I'm going to tell you the stories that I would have heard growing up. And not just growing up, just even as a grown person today. So the story of the buck, it is originally from Guyana, descended from Suriname into Guyana. It was called Baku. Alright, that's what it's called in Guyana actually. In Trinidad we call it buck, but in Guyana they call it Baku. But it's basically the same thing. When I was doing my research, it's basically the same thing that we would have heard, which is a short man or something that resembles a man, and he's described as very dark. Well, I want to assume of African descent, very dark, and sharp pointy teeth, glowing big yellow eyes, long limbs, long arms and legs, no knees, right? The Baku or buck must be fed bananas and milk at an appointed time. So you have to feed them at the same time, every day. You cannot miss a day, because the day you miss feeding your buck, they're going to cause havoc and ruction in your house. So you have to feed them on time. I guess the plus of having one of these creatures was they basically made you rich in a very short space of time. So the rumor in any village, if any person just out of nowhere becomes very rich, we wouldn't think they win the lotto, we would think they have a buck. So there were many families, even in Trinidad right now, there are many business places, many groceries that is rumored to have bucks that they keep in their attic and that they feed and also make sacrifices to and stuff. So there's a particular grocery in South, I ain't gonna call no name because me are no court close, that they say that there's a particular time in the year that someone that's employed there dies, and that is a sacrifice that is made. So I don't know if that is true. Anyway, the story that is told in Guyana, I'm not sure if it's what's told in Trinidad, is that a Baku is trapped in a bottle and the cork is screwed on really tightly so they can't escape, and it's thrown into the sea or into any river or any body of water that is. And if you come across anything like that and you open it, you release the buck, and now it is your buck, so you have to take care of it, meaning you have to feed it, and anything else that's required, you have to do it, but it will make you rich. So that's the risk. All right, that's the belief for many in certain parts of the Caribbean and even Trinidad. All right, so I don't know if y'all have heard about the buck in Gasparillo. Y'all might have heard about that story. When I heard that story, I wasn't so sure about it because it was funnier than anything else. People made it a meme and it went another direction. So I can't say for sure if that was really true. Another thing I heard about them, these little creatures are tricksters. So even though they grant you what you wish, there's always a price to pay. So for example, if your wish is to become very rich, how you're going to acquire riches would be you might get into a bad accident. The insurance might pay out a lot of money, or somebody will die, somebody close to you, and they get their life insurance. So things like that now, it's always a hefty price you have to pay when you request anything from these things, right? But as time goes on and as we get older and stuff, we rarely ever hear about these things, these stories and stuff. I used to hear about it a lot, again, when I was living in Springvale, that is around Claxton Bay. You used to always hear about these things, about who still had them and stuff. So that is basically the story of the buck. I don't know how people acquire them here. I think the story is there's a lot of Guyanese that come in and they bring it with them and trade it with people, and people either buy it or I don't know what they eventually do to get it. But I have a personal, well, it's not my experience, but it's my son, and this is a story that he shared with me when he was very, very young. He would have been about, when I checked the time, because he was with me when it happened, when he saw what he saw. So when I checked back, he would have been about 4 or 5 years old, because I recently moved. I was newly separated from my ex-husband at the time, and I went to this place to live, this new apartment to live in California when he was about 4 or 5. And he said that night it was very cold. He said he remembered that night being really cold, like colder than usual, right? At the time it was just the both of us living in the apartment, nobody else, just us. The landlady lived upstairs and we were downstairs. He said for some reason he couldn't sleep, or he woke up suddenly from sleep. And I want to quote his exact description of what he saw that night. So he said, this is his description, right? He said it was around 4 a.m. He just heard a humming sound, and the humming sound woke him up from sleep. So he eventually opened his eyes, not knowing what he was about to see. He said he saw a creature sitting on the top of the bedhead, like it was perched on the bedhead, just staring down at us. Because I was sleeping with him at the time. It was both of us on the bed, and I was fast asleep. And he saw this creature looking down, and he described it as huge red soul, staring eyes, and a broad mischievous smile stretching across his face. So he described it as very hairy, and he had a tail. So I was like, but in all the descriptions that I read, they were never hairy and they never had a tail. He said that was a buck in its true form. Y'all might pause the reason while I'm telling you all this. This is something that he said actually happened. He wasn't dreaming. And he said when he saw it, he just covered up his face and hugged me very tightly and somehow fell asleep. I was like, how come you didn't wake me up? I'm kind of glad he didn't, because I don't know what I would have done at that point in time. I think I would have moved the very next day. And now that I think back and stuff, I always remember the place being a bit heavy and uncomfortable. It was never a comfortable place. We didn't stay very long. I think the longest I stayed there was probably a year, if so long. And yeah, that was, I guess, our experience with a buck, as he indicated, you know. I do not know. I always say to myself, I don't know how to what to think, because I didn't actually see anything, you know. And as far as he's concerned, that's what he saw. If you all have any experiences, I would love to hear them. I would really love to hear them, because most of the time when we hear these things, we always think, well, it's just a story, yeah? It's just folklore. It's not actually true. It's not actually real, you know. And as far as a lot of people is concerned, well, my son is one of them. It's very real, and it's, you know, it very much exists. Very happy to share that with me. Well, I wouldn't say very happy, but I was very happy that he shared that with me. It took a long time, because he never told me when he was, you know, younger. So I'm gonna just finish off my face. Just gonna put on some powder and put on some lashes, and we'll come to close off. Yes, so eyelashes on. Yeah, with regard to what we was talking about now, like I said, I don't know if, you know, I mean, I asked him, that's my son, that is, if he's ever seen it after that. He said it only happened that one night. I really wished it was something I was able to witness, to be honest. Yeah, I wanted to see it myself. You know. I mean, we have other stories that I can't wait to share with you all. But just have to really know which category I'm putting them in, because there's a few. Well, this may not be a buck, but I also had an experience, and it may not have been supernatural, but it was still scary, right? I was living, like I said, I already moved from this place in California, and I also would have moved from the place in Springfield. So I was living in Pore. Always, all of these places that I just called is central Trinidad. All is central. So I was living in this place in Pore, right? And about maybe after 1 o'clock in the morning, someone started banging on my door, right? Banging on the door. I fly up, scared as hell, because what the hell, banging on my door this time of night, all right? Fly up. And in this place, this apartment, it was a glass door, and my curtain was kind of see-through. So I didn't have to open the door, ask who it is or anything like that. I stood right by, I didn't even go close to the door. I just stood up and I saw that it was a little girl. Like, she looked like about, I would say about 10 or 11. And from where I'm seeing, looking at her, I'm seeing that she is crying, right? She is crying and trying to open the door. She is turning the knob, trying to open the door to come in. But she's not just crying, she's crying and looking that way. She's looking, what is she looking at? I cannot remember being so scared, because she is looking at someone is chasing her and she's trying to turn the knob and open my door. This is another situation where I was living downstairs from the neighbor upstairs. So I just called them. I didn't even stay in that area because me really want to look at the girl, me want to see if she's real. I don't care. I just want her gone. So yeah, I called them and they came downstairs and they said that their explanation was that it's the neighbor's daughter next door and she sleepwalks. So she was sleepwalking Papa. So that was another experience I had. Now, like I said, it probably wasn't supernatural. And that wraps up my storytelling for today. Started off talking about our friend the buck, and I just wanted to throw in a little experience of mine as well to make up for the time. Thank you again for joining me today, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Be sure to catch me in the next one, guys. It's getting better. See you in the next one. Bye bye.